this is the GTR, aka Becky. It's just the name I gave her because she was white and trashy, and it just seemed to fit. So the car has a lot of your typical GTR issues, right? GTRs are known to get rust on the cowl underneath that plastic cowl cover. They're known to have the seam welds underneath the rocker panel just absolutely destroyed by people jacking up on them. And in general, just a lot of shit up on them that importers hide on their way to the States or some other country than Japan. I was actually able to buy this car really cheap. I bought it when I was in Germany. A buddy owned it, and he didn't want it anymore. It had failed inspection, so it was just sitting in his garage, and I picked it up a fairly cheap price. So that being said, let's actually get into everything that is wrong with this car. Probably be mainly focused on just going down one side, and as I go through that, just go ahead and assume that the other side of the car is in similar condition and probably needs similar repairs. So we're going to start out here at the front, the very front, the core support. So when I bought this particular car, the core support had a lot of damage right in this area. It was damaged from having hit, I don't know what. I think it had hit maybe a deer at some point, or sorry, not a deer. I think maybe an owner had at some point just kind of bumped this right corner into something because it was really just tore up around the headlight mounts. It looked like a headlight had just been shoved back into it or something. Also, the actual mount holes for the headlights, somebody had gone in and really cut them out. To make the headlight actually line up. They had to basically cut the hole much bigger and then put a bunch of shims behind it. And so I bought a new core support off of some dude on one of the GTR forums, and I was able to actually remove the old core support, and I just finished welding this one back in. So there was a lot of time spent getting this puppy welded back in, doing all the repairs to it from having drilled all the spot welds. Tedious process, but worth it. It's officially back in the car, and the car is once again mostly complete. Moving back from the cowl support, or from the core support, excuse me, looking at the cowl area, so you can see right over here where the wiper motor goes, a gray area, and then over here on the left side you can see a similar gray area. So these are the areas where GTRs are notorious for receiving building up rust underneath the cowl covering, because water likes to just kind of sit in there and just destroy the material. So I was able to buy a couple of patches off of another guy on a GTR forum, and I just recently put those in as well. So now I have a complete cowl that is not destroyed like it was. I'll try to throw some pictures in on this video too to give you guys an idea of how bad the damage was and what I did to replace it all. So moving back from here, this is the notorious area where these cars just get wrecked by people with jacks. And so, sorry about my fat fingers getting in the way there. So if we go under here, you can see that there is a lot of damage that starts right up here towards the front of the seam weld on this rocker panel, and it runs all the way back to about here. You can see how it's all bent up and twisted up, right? So this is a super common problem on these GTRs, people just jacking them up in the wrong place and destroying the steel. And unfortunately on my car, it is rather severe. These rocker panels, I'm going to do my best to keep them and not have to replace them. But at the end of the day, you know, I might have to. And that's okay if I do. I'm sure I can get it replaced. Plenty of time on my hands, so I'll get it put in there if I need to be, if I need to. Unfortunately, though, because this one has been beat on so badly by jacks and what have you, it's actually been able to get up into the inner sill area. So if you look at this inner sill, you can see how it's completely just bowed in this way. It's not because something hit the car and pushed it this way. It's because it was being lifted from the bottom and it just compacted that entire area where the rocker, the seam, and the floorboard and the sill all kind of come together in that area. And that upwards pressure just forced this piece of metal to start bowing out. As you can see, we go back along the inner sill. You can see where it starts to go, where it's actually vertical. That's the way that this should look like up here. But unfortunately doesn't. Fingers crossed, though, that as I start to pull all this stuff out, the rust isn't severe. I'm hoping that this metal can basically just be reshaped and put and solve the issue that way. The other side, I can't really see it right now because I got these Ziploc bags in the way. They were holding some bolts at some point. You can see I have a similar issue, but on this side, I actually do have a nice little rust hole in that inner sill. So all that stuff is going to be coming out and getting replaced. Okay, so we'll move on from here. We'll come back to this quarter last because this quarter is the most severe issue with the car. But we do have some minor issues on the rear partial, however the say it, shelf. You can see that there's just tiny little rust spots from place to place on it where water had been ingressing. So at some point I'll just have to cut out a little square there, replace it with some steel, and then make sure that I shape these holes back the way they were from the factory. So these little clips can be retained in there. Going to the back to the very tail section here. So some of this damage is on the quarter itself, and I will be replacing that when that whole quarter goes in. But there is also some damage to the actual this rear panel here. It's not too severe, and I'm guessing I can actually make a patch panel to replace that pretty easily. And so that'll be the goal there. Moving over to the other side, we don't have that same damage, but down low, we do have some damage on the quarter panel here. I don't have a quarter panel for this side, and I'm not paying $2,500 or whatever the hell they are for a quarter panel. So we will probably be attempting to make some sort of patch to go in down there as well. You know, if I can't make a patch that fits it perfectly, then hopefully I can buy just that one little section off of another car that's been destroyed on that quarter, but still has that area in decent shape. So we'll be replacing that as well. In addition to that, this side does have just minor little rust blemishes that I'll have to take care of kind of around the archway and then inside the lip here. But overall, I think those areas are going to be pretty easy for me to handle with just a little bit of welding work as well as some patch panels. Okay. We're going to move over here to this quarter panel because this particular quarter panel is going to be the most challenging part of this whole thing. So looking at this quarter, starting up high here, and we'll work our way down, you can see that we have rust holes in it from just water ingress, just some other damage where it's rotting away. We have a lot of surface rust that's getting pretty deep here in this area, and fortunately all of that is part of the quarter, so it'll be coming out and getting replaced when that quarter goes in. But the most severe damage is when we get down here low on the quarter, and sorry for the poor shots here. I'm in a one-car garage. It's not a lot of space on each side of this vehicle, so we can see how it's completely rotted through down here. So from what I can tell on this car, at one point it had been smacked right in this area. I don't know if another car hit it or maybe they slid this car into something and pushed and hit that. But somebody at some point put a metric ton of body filler in this thing to try and kind of reshape this quarter. The quarter itself is not damaged or wrinkled anywhere. It's just sitting in several millimeters from where it should sit. And then obviously it has all of this damage down here. So what I'm going to have to be doing is I'm going to pull this whole quarter off, right? And then any rust that's back behind it, I'm going to deal with at that time. What I do know I'm going to have to deal with, though, is the this little end cap for the inner fender, inner rocker, whatever the hell you want to call it. I am going to have to find a new one of those, or potentially try to rebuild one, which I don't know if I can rebuild that because it is a pretty complex shape. So that's going to have to get replaced. Additionally, this entire inner fender, you can't really see it from here, but right, like this entire area in here, is a little bit deformed. Remember I said this whole quarter is shoved in a little bit. So what I'm going to have to do once I get this quarter off, a lot of that metal is good. It does have some areas where I'm going to have to put in a patch, like right here, for example. But that's okay. I can put a patch in. But once those patches are in, what I'm going to have to do, or probably actually wait until after I've reshaped that entire inner fender, is I'll be building a wooden buck based on the other side, which is good. And then I'll be moving that buck over to this side, basically just using that other side as a pattern to reshape this side. And overall, I think it's going to be pretty easy. It's not like it has to come out very far. It's just a little bit, just a couple of millimeters. And maybe we can actually see some of the damage back here. I think we can. That is Becky in all of her glory and all of her damage. This is a multi-year project. It's already been torn apart for about 2 years. And at some point, I'll probably throw up a quick video just giving my background with the car, how I got it, and all of that sort of information.